Once you reach your 70s, life should feel lighter, wiser, and full of meaning. But sometimes habits that once served you well begin to weigh you down without warning. These patterns, quietly picked up over time, can hold you back, limit your joy, and create distance between you and the people you love. They might seem harmless, but they're stealing more from you than you realize. 1. Stop talking only about your health problems. You've earned the right to speak your truth. After all, your body has been your companion for more than 7 decades. It's carried you through storms and triumphs, raised families, built homes, survived heartbreaks, and danced in kitchens late at night. So yes, it's only natural that your health becomes a bigger part of life. But here's the quiet truth that too few people will say out loud: if your health is the only thing you talk about, you risk losing the connection that keeps your spirit alive. Let me explain. There's a difference between sharing and overshadowing. When every conversation becomes a list of ailments, appointments, or medications, people begin to pull away, not because they don't care, but because they feel helpless, overwhelmed, or pushed aside in the dialogue. It's not that they don't want to listen, it's that they also want to connect with you, not just your symptoms. Harold, a 74-year-old retired teacher, realized this the hard way. His days revolved around pain management and doctor visits. Naturally, that's what he talked about at dinner, on phone calls, during visits from the kids. Over time, those calls became less frequent, the dinners shorter. He noticed it, felt it, but couldn't understand why. Until one day, his daughter gently said, "Dad, we miss you, your stories, your laughter, your thoughts. You're more than what hurts. And so are you. It's okay to talk about your health. It's part of your story. But it shouldn't be the whole story. You are still filled with ideas, memories, questions, opinions, jokes, and insights that the people around you want to hear. You are still interesting, still capable of inspiring, debating, reminiscing, and laughing. Don't let your health status become the headline of every interaction. When someone asks, "How are you?" you can be honest, but consider where the conversation goes from there. Maybe shift the focus. Ask them how they are. Talk about a book you're reading, a memory that resurfaced, a dream you had last night that made no sense but made you smile. Mention the bird that landed on your windowsill or the old friend you reconnected with after decades apart. You see, connection thrives on variety. Our minds crave more than symptoms and diagnoses. We long for color and texture in our conversations. We remember the people who made us laugh, who made us think, who made us feel seen, not just the ones who recited their medical history. There's also a hidden cost to overfocusing on your ailments. It can trap you in a loop of identity where you begin to believe you are your illness, that you are no longer the woman who built, traveled, created, raised, risked, and loved. But you are. And every time you talk about something other than your aches, you reclaim her. Now if you're thinking, "But this is my reality, what else can I talk about?" Let me assure you, there is always something else. Always. Your life didn't start at 70, and it doesn't stop here. You've collected a lifetime of lessons, and each one is a seed for conversation. Maybe you once dreamed of opening a bakery. Maybe you remember how your mother used to braid your hair while singing songs from the radio. Maybe you have an opinion on today's headlines or a tip for planting tomatoes that your grandmother swore by. Those stories, those moments, they matter more than you know. And if you feel like no one's listening, try reaching out differently. Send a letter. Record your memories. Text someone just to say, "Thinking of you, want to hear a funny story?" People are hungry for connection, and they want to connect with you, not just care for you. So yes, your health is part of your life, but let it be a chapter, not the whole book. The people who love you want to hear the rest of the story. And I promise that story is worth telling. 2. Stop saying you're too old for new things. There's a phrase that slips out so easily it feels almost harmless. "I'm too old for that." You might say it with a little laugh, a sigh, or a shrug, but every time you speak those words, something inside you closes. A window. A possibility. A door to a future you haven't stepped into yet. And the most heartbreaking part? It's almost never true. You are not too old to learn something new. You're not too old to start over, explore, or try. What you are is experienced. What you are is resilient. What you are is a woman who has endured decades of change and adapted through it all. So why now at this point in your life, when you finally have the time and wisdom to pursue what matters most, would you choose to shut yourself down? Let's pause for a moment and think about where this belief comes from. Often, it starts small. You try something unfamiliar, a new phone, a yoga class, a social media app, and it feels awkward. Your fingers fumble, your mind blanks, and you tell yourself, this is for younger people. But that's not a truth. That's a script someone handed you, probably without realizing it. Society does a very subtle thing. It trains us to believe that growth, energy, ambition, and adventure belong only to the young. And many women, especially after 70, start to internalize that idea. But let me tell you a secret. That belief? It's a thief. It steals your confidence. It robs you of new friendships, new skills, and new joy. It whispers lies about what's possible when in truth, possibility is still all around you. Consider Clara, a 73-year-old woman who had never touched a paintbrush in her life. One day, she wandered into a local community center that was offering a beginner's watercolor class. She hesitated at the door. Everyone else looked younger. Some had already set up their easels. Clara nearly turned around, telling herself, "You're too old to be doing this." But something in her stopped her. She walked in. She sat down. And 3 years later, Clara's paintings are hanging in local cafes. Not because she was a prodigy, but because she dared to be uncomfortable. She dared to try. And you can too. Now let's be honest. Yes, certain things will feel harder. The learning curve might be steeper. You might need more time, more patience, or even some help. But none of that makes you too old. It simply makes you human. Saying "I'm too old" becomes a kind of armor. It protects you from the discomfort of failure, but it also protects you from the thrill of success. And that trade-off? It's not worth it. What if instead of saying "I'm too old to use a smartphone," you said, "This is new to me, but I'm willing to learn"? What if instead of "I'm too old to meet new people," you said, "I'm open to new connections, even if it feels unfamiliar at first"? That small shift in language is powerful. It turns a closed door into a window cracked open. It breathes life into the idea that there's still more ahead of you, more love, more creativity, more discovery. There are older women today learning foreign languages, taking online courses, starting podcasts, publishing memoirs, and building small businesses. Not because they're exceptional, but because they said yes to the idea that life doesn't stop expanding after 70, it just changes shape. And here's the most important part. When you try something new, no matter how small, you don't just grow, you light up. Your brain fires in ways it hasn't in years. Your confidence gets a boost. And suddenly, the world doesn't feel quite so small. Trying something new doesn't have to mean climbing mountains or enrolling in college. It can be as simple as changing your walking route, trying a new recipe, joining a discussion group, or learning how to video chat with your grandkids. Every time you step out of your comfort zone, you're telling the world, and yourself, "I'm still here. I still matter. I still have things to learn and share." So the next time those words come creeping in, "I'm too old," pause. Ask yourself, is that the truth, or is it fear wearing a mask? What would happen if you said, "I'll try instead"? Because the truth is, the woman you are today is still growing, still evolving, and the world still needs what only you can bring. 3. Stop hoarding things you don't need anymore. There's something tender, almost sacred, about the things we hold on to. A faded photograph tucked in a drawer. A yellowed recipe card written in your mother's hand. A dress you haven't worn in decades but can't seem to part with because it reminds you of a night when you felt beautiful, seen, and full of life. These objects aren't just things. They are chapters of your story. And that's why letting them go can feel like betrayal. But what if I told you that clinging to everything from the past could be quietly holding you back from the present, and from a future still full of possibility? As we age, we often start to collect more than we release. A box of cords from electronics that no longer work. A stack of clothes that no longer fit. Piles of papers, books, trinkets, furniture, and keepsakes that used to serve a purpose, but now just sit there, gathering dust and memories. The trouble is, it doesn't just take up space in your home, it starts to take up space in your heart. You may not see it at first. You walk past the clutter every day, stepping around old boxes or closing the door to that one overflow room. But over time, the weight of it begins to build. You feel it when you try to clean and can't. When your children or grandchildren stop visiting as often because the space feels too crowded, too chaotic. When you can't find something you do need because it's buried beneath layers of things you no longer use. Decluttering is not just about tidying up. It's about reclaiming your life. It's about creating a living space that reflects who you are now, not just who you once were. Let's be clear, this isn't about throwing away your memories. It's about honoring them and then choosing to make room for new ones. You're not losing your history by donating a box of unused items. You're not dishonoring a loved one by giving away a gift that no longer serves you. What you are doing is freeing yourself from the burden of trying to carry everything forward. Consider Margaret. She was 78 when she finally decided to start letting go of the items packed into her basement, old teaching materials from a job she'd retired from 20 years earlier, bins of toys her grandchildren had outgrown, and boxes of knickknacks that hadn't seen the light of day in years. She began slowly, one drawer at a time. Each item, she asked, does this bring me joy? Does it serve me today? If not, she thanked it for its place in her story and let it go. And something beautiful happened. Her home started to breathe again. She started to breathe again. The light came in through the windows in ways it hadn't in years. She invited people over without shame. Her grandkids had space to play. She found her favorite teacup again. Letting go is not easy. It will bring up emotions. You'll hold an old jacket and remember the man who gave it to you. You'll find a postcard from a friend long gone. You'll sit on the edge of the bed and cry. That's okay. That's part of the process. You're not just sorting through things, you're sorting through a lifetime. But here's the truth that might surprise you. Your value is not tied to your possessions. You are not your old books. You are not the wedding china. You are not the dusty boxes in the garage. You are you, your memories, your wisdom, your stories, your presence. And all of that lives inside you, not in the objects around you. Start small. One drawer. One box. Choose what to keep with intention. Give away what no longer fits the life you want to live now. And if something is truly special, consider passing it on while you're still here to see someone else enjoy it. Let that heirloom dish be used at a Sunday dinner. Let that quilt warm someone else's home. Let your story live on through connection, not clutter. Because the less you carry, the freer you become. And at this stage in your life, you deserve freedom more than anything, freedom to move, to welcome others in, to rest, to grow, to simply be. 4. Stop refusing help when you need it. There's a kind of pride that grows stronger with age. A pride in your independence and how you've always managed to handle things on your own. You've lived through war, recession, loss, and change. You've raised families, worked hard, and kept homes running, sometimes on nothing but grit and sheer will. So when someone offers to help now, even with something small, your first instinct might be to smile politely and say, "No, I've got it." But here's a truth that can be hard to swallow. Always refusing help, especially when it's genuinely needed, is not strength. It's self-sabotage disguised as self-sufficiency. You see, somewhere along the line, many women over 70 were taught that asking for help is weakness. That accepting assistance is giving up. That relying on others somehow makes you less capable, less valuable. But that's a myth. And worse, it's a myth that can slowly rob you of connection, safety, and peace of mind. Imagine this. There's a jar on the top shelf and you stretch just a little too far. Or the vacuum needs moving and your back isn't what it used to be. Or your emotions are heavy, but you don't want to burden anyone with your sadness. So you say nothing. You push through. You carry the load. And silently you grow more tired, more isolated, and sometimes more resentful. The truth is, accepting help, gracefully, openly, and without apology is a gift. Not just for you, but for the people who love you. Your children, your neighbors, your friends, they want to support you, not because they think you're weak, but because you matter to them. Because helping you makes them feel closer, useful, needed. When you allow someone to carry a bag, run an errand, or just sit beside you and listen, you're not being a burden. You're building a bridge. Let's talk about Dorothy. At 76, she insisted on mowing her lawn, cooking every meal from scratch, and driving herself to every appointment, even though her knees were aching and her hands weren't as steady as they used to be. Her daughter offered help many times, gently, lovingly. But Dorothy always refused. Until one day, she fell while changing a light bulb and was too embarrassed to call anyone for hours. After that moment, something shifted. Dorothy realized that her refusal wasn't saving anyone, it was shutting people out. She began saying yes. Yes to rides, yes to grocery help, yes to shared meals. And what she discovered surprised her. She didn't feel weaker. She felt lighter, more connected, more loved. We live in a culture that glorifies doing everything yourself. But aging asks us to learn a new kind of wisdom, the wisdom of receiving. And there is strength in that. Enormous, quiet, humbling strength in knowing when to say, I could use a hand, or would you mind? It doesn't make you helpless. It makes you honest. And that honesty opens doors. Now, this isn't about giving up your independence. Far from it. It's about choosing your battles wisely. Use your energy for the things that matter most: joy, creativity, relationships, peace. Let others handle the latter. Let them lift the heavy bag. Let them remind you that you are not alone. Also, consider the emotional kind of help. You don't always have to be the strong one. If you're grieving or afraid or just tired of carrying everything, silently speak. There is no shame in saying, I need someone to talk to. In fact, it might be the bravest thing you do all week. So the next time someone offers to help you, pause. Before you wave them off out of habit, ask yourself, do I really not need this? Or am I saying no because I've been conditioned to? Because life after 70 is not about proving yourself. It's about honoring yourself. It's about choosing ease where you once chose effort, connection where you once chose pride, presence where you once chose performance. And remember this, allowing someone to help you does not make you less. It makes you human. And beautifully so. 5. Stop saying negative things about yourself. It begins quietly. You pass a mirror and mutter, I look awful today. You try something new and sigh, I'm so stupid, I'll never get this. You make a mistake and say out loud, even in jest, I'm just an old fool. You think it's harmless. You think no one's really listening. But here's the truth, you are always listening. Every word you speak about yourself, especially the ones you say without thinking, writes a line in the story your brain tells you about who you are. And over time, those lines add up. They become beliefs. They become barriers. They become the quiet reasons you stop showing up, trying new things, or believing you're worthy of love, joy, or change. If you're a woman over 70, you've lived through a world that hasn't always been kind to women's self-worth. You've been told what beauty looks like, how to behave, what to sacrifice, and when to fade into the background. And maybe, just maybe, you've internalized some of those messages without realizing it. But now is the time to unlearn them. Because they are not true. And they are not serving you. You are not too old. You are seasoned. You are not ugly. You are authentic. You are not slow. You are intentional. You are not irrelevant. You are rich with experience and wisdom that no one else on earth can replicate. It's time to stop being your own harshest critic. Because what you say about yourself, even when no one else hears, shapes your energy, your relationships, and your future. Let's take Ruth as an example. She's 79 and sharp as a tack. But every time someone compliments her on her memory, her outfit, her homemade soup, she brushes it off with a joke. Oh, I'm just a forgetful old lady, or this wrinkled mess, or I used to be sharp, but those days are long gone. And even though she laughs, you can hear the sadness underneath. But one day, her granddaughter caught her mid-sentence and said, Grandma, if I talked about myself the way you talk about yourself, you'd be furious. You'd tell me to be proud. Ruth was stunned. She hadn't realized how her words were planting seeds, not only in her own mind, but in her granddaughter's too. That was the day she started changing the way she spoke. And you can do the same. You don't need to become falsely cheerful or start pretending everything's perfect. This isn't about ignoring your pain, your fatigue, or your challenges. It's about choosing language that doesn't wound you further. It's about deciding to speak to yourself the way you'd speak to someone you love. Instead of "I look terrible today," say, "This face has seen so much and I'm grateful for it." Instead of "I'm too old for that," say, "That's new to me but I'm curious." Instead of "I can't keep up," say, "I'm doing my best and that's enough." This might feel strange at first. You might hear those positive words and think, "Who am I kidding?" But that's just the echo of years of self-criticism. Let it fade. Let it go. Because the more you practice kindness toward yourself, the more natural it becomes. The more your mind starts to believe it. And the more others begin to reflect it back to you. Here's the beautiful thing: when you speak kindly about yourself, you give others permission to do the same. You teach your children, your grandchildren, your friends, through example, how to treat themselves with grace and compassion. And that's a legacy worth leaving. So the next time you catch yourself speaking poorly about your body, your mind, or your worth, pause. Ask, would I say this to someone I love? If the answer is no, then it doesn't belong in your mouth or your mind. If this video resonated with you, please give it a like. It helps more people find this message. And don't forget to subscribe to My Reboot for more encouragement, guidance, and heartwarming reminders that aging is not the end. It's a powerful new beginning.